Diablo 1, released in 1997, was just one of those big boy games, you know. Genuinely not messing around, making new mechanics that people hadn't seen yet in a video game, and, revolutionizing the role-playing genre. Dark atmosphere, elements of horror, a captivating storyline, guys stabbing their foreheads with stones. Diablo 1 is synonymous with good-ass game. Diablo 3, released in 2012, was one of those small boy games, you know. It messed around, reusing mechanics that people had seen before, devolving the role-playing genre. Bright atmosphere, elements of bullshit, an annoying storyline. Diablo 3 is synonymous with... I would like a refund, please. Don't worry, I have some praise for Diablo 3, but yeah, I got more insults as well. This is round 8 of a continuing series in which I just complain about Blizzard. I really want to get onto new topics, namely what makes every video game company terrible, but Blizzard is the sweet spot at the moment, you know, dog shit company. A surprising opinion you may not expect, but I think Diablo 2 is probably the best game in the Diablo series. It's a beautiful blend of action, progression, dark atmosphere, and is a leading reason in why Diablo 3 missed the mark, and to be honest, why it didn't even hit the fucking dartboard for a lot of people. Debating Diablo 2 versus Diablo 3 is very pointless, and I feel like it wouldn't even make an interesting video. I'll even do it right now. Diablo 2 is better than Diablo 3. Does anyone disagree? No, who the fuck would disagree with that anyway? But if we take the progenitor of Diablo 2 and pit it against its successor, that might make an interesting race. The game design decisions of yesteryear versus nexteryear are a race in which we pit good design decisions and impact against Diablo 3. Diablo 1 came at a time where the RPG genre was having difficulty in North America. Final Fantasy VII wasn't quite out yet to energize that market, and beyond that, many people were happy to claim that RPGs are dead, which proves to be one of the most enlightened and intelligent things uttered by suits who don't play video games, and instead play how much money can I rack up in my ass simulator, because one could take a cheeky look across the ocean and see that the RPG genre was kicking balls, but hey, this is North America. Bring me some crap 1997 game. Anyway, that's a different topic, again reserved for the entire gaming industry sucks. The topic at hand is Diablo 1 was a powerhouse, generating a lot of revenue, making a lot of people new fans of both computer gaming and RPGs, innovative, interesting, and imaginative. I really enjoyed Diablo 1. It was a true breakthrough of passion and genuine creation in the video game genre. Take notes, everything I hate. I'm looking at you, Overwatch. Here we are at the Praise Diablo 3 section. Thanks for joining me in this section. Moving on, we have the shit-talking Diablo 3 section. Okay, so it's no secret, Diablo 3, otherwise known as Big Pineapple in Chinese, is disliked by a lot of people. It came out with such incredibly high expectations and then it did not deliver. And is there an easy explanation as to why it did indeed suck the ass? Well, it doesn't help that this game was in development hell for over 10 years. No one could figure out what to do with it. It was passed around from the Diablo series creators to Blizzard North when the Big Four left to the Irvine Blizzard Studios, and it just could not be finished. This period of time stands out in my mind. You know, the hype was legitimately legendary. It got to a point where no one expected it to ever come out. And then suddenly, like a dream, here it was, 2012. We all sat down with pinnacle expectations. Didn't work out. So, what we got was a bright atmosphere game with a strange difficulty curve, uninteresting gear and skill choices, and Deckard Cain. That's a great plan. Kill the most loved character in the first act. Okay, but this is a contest, unfortunately not a why Diablo 3 sucks video. And since it's one of my contests, it's going to be genuinely super intelligent, don't worry. We're pitting Diablo 1 and Diablo 3 against each other in 3 categories, that being the story, the gameplay, and the theme. Story will discuss story, gameplay will discuss the playing of the games, and theme will go over the artistic decisions surrounding it all, being music, setting, graphics, on and on it goes. For the record, I'm not going to read a Wikipedia article that details the entire plot summary for both games. I'm trying to make non-dick dump content here, so let's just talk and get into discussion. Diablo 1 has a very dark storyline. It's the most depressing and harsh plot the series has adopted. Long short story, there's a portal to hell in the church. A being most adequately described as the devil himself is causing the damage you might expect. Also tons of subtext about heaven and hell, why this terrible shit is happening in the first place, what you're doing there, there's a lot to it. Overall, the plot of Diablo 1 is really cool because it's almost entirely going terribly. Everything sucks. You're tasked with not only getting into hell and killing what could be the strongest demon of all time, but you're also trying to rescue a boy named Albrecht, the youngest son of the King Leoric, who is assuredly dead. There's a terrifying demon that has destroyed the forces that attempted to go before you. The Archbishop is evil because of course he is. In the end, the hero that is canonically named Aiden, the older brother of Albrecht, decides to stab his fucking forehead with the Soul Stone of Diablo in an attempt to control him. Didn't work out. Diablo 3 is a little different of a format, since in the story of Diablo 2, the heroes basically eliminate the central antagonist of the series. There's no one left to kill. But of course they had to get to a point where the titular villain was back to kill again. And fortunately, they didn't settle for somehow Diablo returned. What they did settle for was a few annoying plot additions. It feels a lot more action-oriented than dark, which is in disservice to the plot of, fighting the forces of hell. I sympathize with this challenge of writing a continuing story in the world of Sanctuary, because it must be hard. The games always end with the killing of the same guy. Before Diablo 2 came out, the explanation as to why he'd be back was already probably considered. Central antagonists of Diablo 2 were mentioned in Diablo 1 after all, but Diablo 3 had to stand on its own legs. And by this, I mean they took the vaguely mysterious character from the first Diablo and decided that A, the hero character had a child with her named Leah, this new character the player interacts with for the first time, and B, she was evil all along, which is just great. How fun is that writing? I love plot twists. I love shit. And this time, as a kicker, the forces of hell have decided to make Diablo imbued with all the soulstone powers to become the prime evil. And then suddenly he's feeling very World of Warcrafty in here, and for no real reason, the protagonist characters of Diablo 3 could just kill Diablo still. Also, can we please stop going to Tristram? It was cool in Diablo 2 to save Deckard Cain, but in this game it's like, hey, look, it's Tristram. Wow, this place is still shit. Also, naming your town New Tristram feels like an excuse to get it absolutely ransacked by demons, or at the very least, avoided by anybody with half a brain. Enjoyable tourism at New Tristram, a place that is getting fucked. Diablo 1 felt like horror. Diablo 3 felt like snore, so in my opinion, I prefer the story of Diablo 1. Now, the more important aspect of video game-etude being how the game plays. I'm going to be straight up, I absolutely love the gameplay in Diablo 1, but it is very old now. You can only walk like you've recently shat your pants, which is fair given the circumstance. You only have one special skill per class, and they aren't that interesting anyway, and finally, there's not a whole lot of gearing variety. In the end, there's very little decision-making to be made, but this was still so innovative for its time. Picking stats that let you equip randomly found gear of varying varieties, an innovation that would become very popular in the RPG genre as time went on. The best part about all the systems of Diablo 1 is the feeling of uncertainness. You're not going to feel confident the entire way, and in fact, you're going to be frequently ill-equipped to get through the tasks. That's fun because it's investing. You need to find better gear to get stronger, you need to return to town and get potions or scrolls. It's classic RPG mechanics done very well. For a nearly 25-year-old game, it can be a lot of fun to run through to this day. Diablo 3, on the other hand, does not buzz me, really at all. The combat feels too easy, as though nothing is really a challenge. There's definitely more variety in playstyles over Diablo 1, namely because there's at least 2 playstyles per class. The builds have flair and look exciting, but nothing about the combat or your interaction with the game have any impact on the difficulty or your success. I call this bland dump shit design. But quite contradictory to my points, it would be disingenuous to say Diablo 3 has worse gameplay than Diablo 1. I prefer Diablo 1 all day, but it is limited by its time. While that doesn't affect enjoyment, it does affect objective goodity. Diablo 3 has more substance in how you tackle things. It has more polish in terms of how combat works. It has a far more developed endgame. You can run in Diablo 3. 1 point to Diablo Trace, otherwise known as Big Pineapple. Finally, we have the theme. Diablo 1 is awesome. I mean, the Tristram OST alone just kicks my balls with how good it is. In the metaphorical good way, of course. Not to mention the copious other music tracks, the iconic voice lines, the intensity of delving deeper into the abyss. It's an awesome game thematically. Seriously, this game's entire premise is that you have to kill the lords of hell. I would not hesitate to call this game's look iconic. In contrast, I would hesitate greatly to call Diablo 3 iconic. In fact, a common criticism is that Diablo 3 looks like World of Warcraft, and that's kinda true. The game has a very bright appearance and it never feels intense at all. Even during this siege where the forces of hell are breaking through the fucking ground, it feels far too action-oriented and jokey. This is in part due to the copious amounts of characters who chat with you about everything, and I suppose more of the idea that people just live with this shit at this point. Everyone's like, the burning hell is a real drag, wish they would get out of my way when I'm going to work. It went for an action approach, I think, even with the soundtrack. Nothing comes as close to the Diablo 1 OST in terms of memorability and horror. For copious reasons, Diablo 1 wins overall in terms of theme. And between Diablo 1 and Big Pineapple, I think that Diablo 1 wins because it's not called Big fucking Pineapple. I try to be fair because D3 has received universal disregard and insults, and does it deserve it? Yeah, probably. But Diablo 3 has one really, really big perk, and you know what it is? It's by far not the worst Diablo product ever released. Don't you guys have customer goodwill, you fucking